Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. Let's start with an easy story. Something a little light. Putin says Kremlin is ready for nuclear war. Putin said if the United States sent troops to Ukraine, it would be seen as a significant escalation of the war that could give the Kremlin a rationale for doing what was once considered unthinkable. This is the game the Russians have been playing for 2 years, threatening nuclear war. If the West sends modern artillery, like the M777, we're going to nuke you. If the West sends HIMARS, we're going to nuke you. If the West sends modern air defense systems, such as the Patriot, we're going to nuke you. If the West sends modern battle tanks, like the Leopard 2 and the Challenger 2, we're going to nuke you. If the West sends long-range missiles, such as Scalp and Storm Shadow, we're going to nuke you. If the West sends F-16s, we're going to nuke you. I'm starting to think Russia isn't actually being serious about their nuclear threats. So over a year ago, I think in November of 2022, I made this video, Why Russia Will Not Use Nuclear Weapons in Ukraine. It's gotten over 500,000 views, check it out. But let me give you the 20-second summary. Putin will not use nuclear weapons. 2 primary reasons. The first one is he doesn't know how the other nuclear powers will react. If India and China ever agree to participate in economic sanctions, then it's lights out for Russia. The second reason is, the only reason why Putin is still alive is because he hasn't used nuclear weapons. If he decided to use a nuclear weapon, he would have to pick his favorite command bunker and go underground, and he could never return to the surface. If Putin never wanted to see daylight again, there probably would be a Hellfire missile waiting for him. So that's the reason why Russia hasn't used nuclear weapons and won't use nuclear weapons basically until they lose this war and go back to their own country. But let me read for you what Putin actually said in this TV interview. This week is election week, so Putin agreed to do one interview for all of Russian state TV media, and here's what he said. From a military technical point of view, of course, we are ready. We have troops in a constant state of combat readiness. This is the first thing. The second, and this is also a universally recognized thing, is that our nuclear triad is more modern than any other triad, and only we and the Americans actually have such a triad. We have advanced much more here. It is more modern, the whole nuclear components. We are always ready. I want it to be clear that these are not conventional weapons, but a type, a branch of the armed forces that is on permanent alert. So if you don't know what the nuclear triad is, it's submarines, land-based ICBMs, and bombers. Putin is correct. Only Russia and the United States has a triad. But is Russia's triad really better and more modern than the United States? And what he's trying to boast about is the hypersonic Kinzhal missile, which can carry nuclear weapons. But Ukraine has proven that the Russians are liars, and their hypersonic missiles can be intercepted. They can be shot down by Patriot launchers. So no, Russia, your nuclear triad is not better than the United States. And it doesn't really matter. With thousands of nuclear weapons flying across the North Pole, whose nuclear triad is slightly better is irrelevant. We're all going to die. So let's try to avoid this scenario. And this interview was important because Putin, the leader of Russia, once again affirmed to the world they're not looking for peace talks. They're not looking for negotiations. Putin dismisses peace talks just because Ukraine is running out of ammunition. So let me read for you the quotes from this interview of what Putin said. We were promised a lot of things. He's talking about promises from Germany and France. So now promises from them are not enough. If we now negotiate just because they are running out of ammunition, that would be somehow ridiculous of us. For everyone arguing, let's just stop supporting Ukraine and the war will end, there's an important critical step in between stop supporting Ukraine and the end of the war. That step in between is tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians being murdered by the Russians if the Russians ever get control of cities like Odessa, Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Kyiv. I like this tweet from Ambassador McFaul. Hitler did not stop killing people in the lands he conquered because they didn't have weapons. Stalin did not stop either. So why do people assume Putin will be benevolent? Putin will be kind to the civilians of Ukraine if he ever gets control of these cities. We know who the Russians are at this point. Women will be mass raped, children will be abducted and handed off to random families in Siberia. All the Ukrainian men will be conscripted into the Russian military and be used as cannon fodder in the next war against the Baltics. So Europe, we need you to step up. Macron, Scholz, and Tusk to hold Ukraine talks in Berlin. The Weimar Triangle is meeting today, actually, March 15th. So I wish the United States was the arsenal of democracy and we could handle this situation on our own, but Putin and the Russians have infiltrated the MAGA wing of the Republican Party, and Congress is paralyzed. The United States can't be the security guarantor of Europe anymore. So we need all the European countries to do their part, but specifically these three. They need to get on the same page and get serious about sending Ukraine more weapons today. So what's Ukraine doing in the meantime? Dozens of drones bombard Russian oil refineries in a record air raid. Kyiv launched around 70 kamikaze aircraft, mostly against Russia's energy infrastructure. 2 refineries were badly burned. So there's videos, of course, online. I'll link them down below if you want to see what a Russian oil refinery fire looks like. It's pretty spectacular. And here's the track record from the last 2.5 months. It was mid-January that I think Ukraine decided to initiate this plan. Given that we were halfway through winter, I think Ukraine was being considerate of energy prices around the world. But as we head into spring and summer, Ukraine's going all out on destroying Russia's energy infrastructure. Their oil depots, their oil terminals, their oil refineries. It's going to take weeks, it's going to take months, it might even take years. But eventually, all of it will go offline because of these drone attacks. So here's a summary from January 9th to March 13th of all the depots and refineries that Ukraine has struck. And when you look at the map, most of Russia's oil refinery capacity is in the West, close to the European markets. Russia was pretty dumb, going to war against their best customers, but this oil money is supporting the Russian war machine. It's keeping the Russian economy alive. So Ukraine knows what they have to do. And when you look at all the best targets to go after, they're all within a 1,500 kilometer range of Ukraine's border. Not all of them have been targeted yet, but Ukraine is just kind of cycling through all of them to spread out Russia's resources. How is Russia going to protect all of these important oil depots and refineries? So Russia's oil, gas, pipeline, and refinery industry is a sitting duck at a shooting gallery. Russia's air defenses are simply overwhelmed and overstretched. Russia's a very big country, and they've lost quite a few air defense systems in the last 2 years. In a nutshell, this is why Ukraine is going to win this war. Every resource that the Ukrainian military has, they use it to degrade Russia's war capabilities, going after valid military targets. Meanwhile, the last 2 years, how many missiles, how many bombs, and how many drones has the Russian military wasted blowing up apartment buildings on purpose, just to terrorize the population? Whatever objective they thought they were achieving, they failed. Ukraine's will is resolute. They're never going to stop fighting. They're going to go all the way until Russia is defeated. So I'm compelled to just mention this story because the terror and horror continues every night in Ukraine. Kryvyi mourns as Russian strike claims the fifth life, 49 injured in this destruction of this apartment building, including 10 children. The world can't look away. We have to keep seeing what Russia is doing every night. This is not an accident. This is not a misidentified target. Relative to the size of Ukraine, these cities are very small. Russia is targeting these apartment buildings on purpose. So I'll link this clip down below. This is a body cam video from a police officer responding to this apartment building that had been struck by a missile. If you want to experience the carnage and horror for yourself, I'll link this down below. I also have to tell you that when I link stuff down below, if it contains graphic violence, you have to be logged into Twitter and say you're 18 in order to see the video. If you're not logged in, Twitter is going to say the video doesn't exist. It's just their policy about videos containing graphic violence. What's going on with those Russians who crossed the border? Freedom of Russia claims it took control of the Tyotkino village in the Kursk Oblast. The battalion accuses Putin's army of fleeing positions and abandoning heavy equipment as their forces advance in the Kursk and Belgorod Oblasts. I was hoping this would be more, but based on the evidence we've seen, the pictures and videos, this is pretty limited. This video went viral of the Liberty of Russia Legion saying they were in Russia. But you can see this building is painted blue and yellow. This is a border checkpoint on the Ukrainian side. So perhaps these guys only felt safe filming this video on the Ukrainian side. They then crossed over. But as far as pictures and videos of fighting on Russian territory, I've not seen that much. Just a couple tanks firing back and forth, but this isn't like it was last summer. And to be honest, I think they simply don't have the resources. I'm sure the Ukrainian military would like to support them more, but Ukraine's low on ammunition. Anti-Kremlin militia says fighting ongoing in 5 Russian settlements. These Russian dissidents have admitted the reason why they're attacking this week is because Russia is holding their elections. They're trying to embarrass Putin. They're trying to disrupt his coronation. And we'll see if it has any impact. My guess is their resources are pretty thin, so more than likely they're going to fall back into Ukrainian territory, probably by this weekend. Russian conscripts deployed to defend the border ahead of sham presidential elections. Conscripts, technically, I think, are still not supposed to be used in the occupied territories, but they can be used to defend Russia. So Putin's going to find whatever bodies he can, send them to this border region in Kursk and Belgorod, and do the best they can. The regular professional Russian military is a bit occupied. And this is what it looks like voting in the occupied territories. For the Ukrainian citizens of Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk, a nice man with a covered face and an automatic rifle will come to your door and tell you it's time for you to vote. All the lights are on, everyone is watching, the ballot box is transparent, This man with a gun is going to make sure that you fill out your paperwork correctly. The United States announces their first military aid package for Ukraine for 2024, amid stalled funding in Congress. Amidst a standoff in Congress, the United States commits $300 million in defense aid to Ukraine. Included in this package are essentials: cluster munitions, HIMARS ammunition, 155mm artillery shells, Stinger man-pads, and anti-tank armor weapons. Also rumored to be in this package, Biden wanted to include it this time, ATACMS missiles. We'll see where they go, probably in the coming week. Now, people want to know, where is this money coming from? And this is money allocated by Congress under the Foreign Assistance Act for President Biden's drawdown authority. This pool of money is supposed to be used for any emergency conflict in the world. If Venezuela invades Guyana, if North Korea attacks South Korea, if China invades Taiwan, if Iran attacks Israel, you get the idea. So Biden wants to save this money for what it was intended for: an unforeseen emergency, and maybe Congress isn't in session. But we've waited long enough. MAGA Republicans have been blocking military aid since October 1st, almost 6 months now. Ukraine needs ammunition. Biden authorized this $300 million in emergency military aid. It's begun. 2 days ago, Hakeem Jeffries officially announced the discharge petition process would begin for the Senate's version of the military aid bill. This is important. So how many signatures do we have so far? And in 2 days, 177 House Democrats have signed the discharge petition. As of now, 0 House Republicans have done so. So if you want to look at this list, if you have a Democratic congressperson on here, please call them and tell them to sign the discharge petition. I already know there will be some House Democrats who will refuse, such as Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They don't want to support this bill because they don't support Israel. It's not against Ukraine. So I'm hoping we can get this to 200 or 205 signatures. It's at that point pressure will be applied to House Republicans to also sign the discharge petition. Hakeem Jeffries really wanted a House Republican to lead this effort, but House Republicans are planning something different. So here's a statement from Virginia Representative Abigail Spanberger. Once again, members of Congress are voicing their support for the discharge petition. If you want to thank them if they signed it, you can also call or write them to thank them for doing the right thing. And here's some crazy news. This was unexpected. House Republican Ken Buck is resigning from Congress next week. He basically can't take it anymore. He hates Donald Trump and he hates MAGA Republicans. Ken Buck is a traditional conservative Reagan Republican, and Trump doesn't want these people in the party anymore. So Ken Buck was a strong supporter of Ukraine. His vote was very appreciated. But the crazy thing that might happen is traditional conservative Reagan Republicans might mass resign from Congress in protest of Trump and give a majority control to the Democrats. I think another 4 or 5 House Republicans would have to do this for this to happen. But it could happen in the next 2 months. If House Republicans who are not running for re-election want to give a final FU to Speaker Johnson, Donald Trump, and the MAGA movement, they can just resign now and give control to the Democrats. Here is a statement from Ken Buck, and you can listen to him yourself.
This place just keeps going downhill, and I don't need to spend my time here. We've taken impeachment and we've made it a social media issue as opposed to a constitutional concept. Mike Johnson's ability to talk me into staying here Is it going to be about as successful as his ability into talking me into unconstitutional impeachments?
Ken Buck is as conservative as you get. But traditional Republicans are fed up with MAGA leadership. Under MAGA leadership in this Congress, nothing's been done. This Congress will go down in history as the least productive, most dysfunctional Congress ever. Under Mike Johnson and MAGA leaders, all they're trying to do is score cheap political points. They're not actually interested in governing by working in a bipartisan fashion to get things done, pass legislation, serve the American people. All they're trying to do is, once again, post clips and videos online to go viral, to get more campaign dollars for themselves. Here's an interesting tweet from Dan Rather. Tonight I'm wondering if you heard this important nugget Ken Buck was quoted as saying. House Republicans' razor-thin majority is now down to 2. When talking to Axios, Buck hinted to what could be even bigger news. More resignations could be coming. I think it's the next 3 people that leave that they're going to be worried about. We'll see. If enough House Republicans just mass resign, Democrats can take control. They can then schedule a vote on military aid for Ukraine. So here's the deception, here's the lie. Speaker Johnson promises to unblock aid to Ukraine that will look substantially different to the $95 billion plan passed by the Senate. So Speaker Johnson's a liar, and his primary objective is to block military aid for Ukraine. So what he's trying to do now is work with House Republicans to craft their own version of a military aid bill that they know the Democrats won't support, that they know will not pass in the Senate. So they're trying to make something that looks good enough, but they know will never get 60 votes in the Senate. Johnson is doing this to kill more time. Once again, it's about running out the clock until November. If Trump can be reelected, Trump can then veto or block anything that Congress tries to pass to help Ukraine. So this is not the way. Please, for the love of God, House Republicans who support Ukraine, just sign the discharge petition, pass the identical version of the Senate bill. If something different comes out, we're going to waste another 2 or 3 months and nothing will be accomplished. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. I want to just quick mention the nonprofits Education Cannot Wait. They've allocated $18 million to provide educational support to the children of Ukraine. 150,000 children will indirectly receive support through funding to train teachers, expand digital learning initiatives, and provide alternative education opportunities. So, thank you so much to this UNICEF program. Final feel-good clip is from British volunteer Richard Woodruff. He works with the nonprofit's Frontline Kitchen. They provide humanitarian relief to the people of Ukraine. And they've got a new invention that they're going to be sending to the soldiers on the front line.
So this is our very, very first portion of our homemade chicken jerky, which is heavily marinated for our troops on the front and vacuum sealed with our new little machine. This is so, so cool. Moment of truth to try it. Oh my goodness. This is like the best thing ever. So much flavor. We will show you the recipe of how exactly to do this. Here's our little dehydrator machine, which we've been very kindly gifted by some Ukrainian ladies. And they actually gave us the recipe too on how to make this. So, the troops are going to be over the moon. Look at all that flavor. And yeah, there is the sealed packet. So we'll get it all labeled up and sent off to the front. So, дуже дякую to everybody that helped in the making of this. And the guys on the front will be very, very, very happy.
Richard Woodruff has been doing fantastic work. I've been following him on social media for over a year now. If you'd like to support him or Frontline Kitchen, I'll put these links down below. Here's the PayPal account for Frontline Kitchen if you'd like to make a donation, or if you'd like to support Richard directly, I'll link his Buy Me a Coffee page down below. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up, best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.